Hey YouTube, it's Laura again. Welcome to Love Chats with Laura. I wanted to talk a little bit today about what you can expect as in response to you basically taking control of how you have been handling your your love life. Okay. When you make a decision that you do not like the results that you have been getting, the outcomes of your relationships, you may reach a point, and you should reach a point, where you recognize that the way that you've been doing things has not been working for you. It's not turning out the way you want it to turn out. And when you make those kinds of observations and then you make choices which change your approaches to your relationships, you can expect to receive certain types of responses from the people that you're dealing with about those changes. And also, if it's people that you haven't even met yet that have become accustomed to women or men, behaving in a certain way, you may not get you may not get the results that you want, or you may find that by virtue of you setting a standard for yourself in your relationships and who you will associate yourself with romantically, that pool will decrease, because everybody wants to be around somebody that's not going to consider their own interests when they enter into a dating relationship with them. Everybody wants to be with somebody that's going to let them just treat them any kind of way. But when you stop and recognize that you need to change those patterns, and you start thinking logically about your relationships, then those who are anxious and willing to jump into relationships with you will become less and less and less of a group. Okay? So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what to expect and how to handle the results of finally looking at how you are behaving in your relationships and in your potential relationships differently and in your own interests, as opposed to the way that you had been doing things, which had resulted in you being frustrated, hurt, damaged emotionally, from the experiences of your relationships. So I had a few conversations recently with about 4 or 5 different people. A couple of them were just in passing, and a few more were purposeful conversations. I spoke with a young lady, and I'm assuming that she was probably about 20 years old. No, she had to be 21. Okay, because she spoke about she was going to a bar to drink. So she had to be at least 21 years old. So I estimate that she was no more than 21 or maybe 22, but probably just 21 years old. And what she revealed to me was that since she had been like 13 years old, she always had a boyfriend. She never was without a boyfriend. And at this particular time, the reason that I was speaking to this young lady is because she expressed to me a person that she didn't even really know that well. I just shared a ride with her. And she expressed how miserable she was, that her love life was really miserable. And she jokingly said, "I want to effing kill myself." Okay, now I'm assuming that she was joking about that, but my concern was aroused, because I was like, well, I hope she's kidding about that, So I said to her, I said, well, listen, I said, if you want to bounce something off of me, you can. We will never see each other again. So that's when she opened up to me and told me that she had never been without a boyfriend, that she always felt compelled to be in a relationship ever since she was like 13 years old. Okay. And so I asked her if she could, be more specific with me about the current reason why she felt like she wanted to effing kill herself. And she told me that she had been going with a guy and she liked him, and for logistical reasons, like they were going to be going into a different part of the world. They were going to school, and like I think he was going abroad and she wasn't, or whatever. They decided that they would end their relationship. She said it wasn't a relationship that was free of problems, but that she really liked the guy. Okay. And so when she broke up with this guy, she immediately went back to her go-to boyfriend, which she had really been off and on involved with since she was, like in high school. So she was currently missing the relationship that she had with the guy who, was going to be studying abroad. And she was miserable about that. And she was miserable in resuming this current relationship with this guy who she had been going back and forth with for several years. So I asked her, what is the reason that you went back to the guy? I understand why you felt like you wanted to break up with the guy who was going abroad, and you mutually made that decision. But what was the reason that you went back with the guy who you had broken up with many, many times, and he was like your go-to boyfriend? And she said she just didn't know, that it was just a repulse, that it's an impulse action that she carries out frequently. And so I said, well, then I think that you need to look at that pattern and determine whether that is a pattern that you want to continue. Because you're right now sitting next to somebody in an Uber that, and you're saying you want to effing kill yourself, So I said, so my suggestion to you would be, think about what you are doing and what it's causing to happen for you, and possibly consider changing that behavior. So she said, I never really thought about it that way. I just automatically just do the things that I do. Okay, so I am certain that if this young lady, thinks about it and then she decides, yeah, I really should not be with this guy, because I'm just doing this out of impulse, out of rebound. He ain't gonna be that pleased about it. Okay? Because as many times as she has gone back to him, as a default action, he's gone back to her as well, So he's gotten into a pattern as well. So he's not going to like that if she pops up and says, well, I really don't think that we should be doing this. So he may eliminate himself from being available to her on any level. All right, that brings me to another conversation that I had with a friend of mine. This woman identified that there is a pattern that she is involved in that is not a positive thing for her relationships. But in her mind, she has convinced herself that there isn't anything better out there for her, that she's always going to have to experience this type of relationship. Which I was trying to impress upon her that wasn't true. And so she started to tell me how when she has asserted herself and complained about the things that she's unhappy about, that, she has found herself like on the outs, with various boyfriends that she's had, that they've been like, well, they won't make the change that she's asking them to make as far as how they're treating her. And so She's like, well, that's the way that they are, and that's the way that they want, you know. And I said to her, well, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's what they want. You know, they want you to continue to allow yourself to be, and for lack of a better phrase, mistreated in these relationships. And when you say, no, I don't want to be mistreated, you cannot expect that they will then turn around and say, well, I've had it this way for years with you, but now that you say you don't want to be mistreated anymore, I'll just go ahead and treat you like I value being in a relationship with you. That's not going to happen. More than likely, you are going to experience the loss of some people in your life. So I wanted you to be able to expect that when you do change and start thinking about your relationships logically in a way that preserves, preserves isn't the right word. Okay. In a way that is in your best interest. Okay. Not necessarily to the exclusion of anyone else's, of consideration of anyone else. But when you decide that you want to start doing things in a way that doesn't result in you being hurt and victimized and frustrated, other people aren't necessarily going to go along with that. Okay? So you have to be able to accept that, look, okay, so this brings me to another conversation that I had with a man, okay, who I was discussing this concept with, and he said to me that, well, if women are going to, if women are gonna make those kind of demands, and I'll tell you in a minute what he considered to be that demand. But then they're just not going to have anybody. Okay, so basically what I was saying to him was that I felt like women definitely had a right to, to date people, to date men, and to go out on dates with men and not involve themselves physically with a man until the relationships reached a point where they were comfortable resting their hearts and their emotions, in that relationship, and that in the meanwhile, they should continue to just date and not, invest emotionally and physically, but invest, their friendship, their, the time that they spend on dates, having a good time with this person, talking to this person, and that they should not be so eager to invest emotionally and physically without seeing whether it's going to be a good situation for them in a relationship with that person. Well, he had an extreme reaction to that. He had an extreme reaction to the part about, women possibly, not just dating one guy at a time. And also about going on dates with guys and guys, paying for dates with women without women sleeping with them, basically, So I said to him, so what you're saying is that if a woman has a standard of being treated a certain way before she involves herself physically, which then means emotionally, because that is how we are made. Okay? When we involve ourselves with a man physically, our emotions are activated by that. So that in order for us to make that kind of investment, and to feel like there are standards that we have for the quality of the relationship that we have before we invest that in the relationship, that it is unreasonable for us to set that standard, that we should just go ahead and invest emotionally and physically in situationships that aren't necessarily going to result in us feeling treasured and cherished and respected and loved and committed to and all of that, if that is what we seek. And at that point, he really didn't have a response for that. But he just said, well, that's just the way it is. So I'm here to tell you, I'm saying all that to say to you, you expect that when you decide that you are going to do things differently in your romantic life, and that you will no longer follow the patterns that you have been following that have resulted in you being hurt and frustrated and used and all of the stuff that you are, that you are not, unfulfilled, played. When you stop the behaviors in yourself that make you available for those types of things to occur, please do expect that people are gonna drop by the wayside. Expect that, okay? But I want you to think about this. Is it better? Because he was saying, they just not gonna have anybody, So let me ask you this question, and if you answer this question for yourself, okay, here's the question. Would I rather be in a relationship that is going to result in me being hurt, mistreated, possibly physically harmed, but definitely emotionally damaged? Is it better for me to be in a situation like that rather than to not be in a relationship at all until I am able to meet the person who ultimately is going to, treat me the way that I deserve to be treated, and therefore making it possible for me to treat him or her the way that I want to be free to treat someone that I'm in a relationship with? Is it okay? Is it better for me to just keep on going through situationship after fuckship, after stupidship, after hurtship, just so that I can continue to be in some kind of ship? Or is it better for me to live my life and be okay with the fact that when the cuts are made, some of these guys are not going to make the cut. They can't or won't. And that I'm okay with that. I don't think, if you take the analogy of being cut, and I'm a Ravens fan, and I do believe that coach is John Harbaugh. I do not believe that John Harbaugh is sitting up, lamenting about guys that he had to cut that didn't make the damn team, that got drafted and they came to training camp, but they just couldn't cut it, and he had to let their asses go. He ain't sitting up stressing over, that guy, oh man, that guy. Hell no. So why should you be sitting up over guys and women that you have cut? They didn't make the damn team. They didn't make the cut. They could not or would not be capable of being in a relationship with you where you were being treated the way you deserve to be treated and the way you desire to be treated. So you cut their asses. You're not going to be sitting up lamenting about that. You are going to get used to the fact that the cream will rise to the top. And if you got to let them suckers go, you got to let them go. And do know they will go. And they will try to convince you that you are being unreasonable. How dare you demand that I treat you right while I'm taking your booty? I'm just saying. If you're a guy, how dare you demand that I treat you right while you're, showering me with affection and, you must recognize that everybody is not going to like that shit. And please excuse my language, but that's just the way that it is, okay? That's just, a thought that I figured, I would share with you. So if you want to continue to, think about things, analyze the way that you have been approaching your relationships along with me, who is also learning and growing, even at 61, almost 61 years old. I got like a week and then I'll be 61, and I have had patterns in my life that have been destructive for me and my heart. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but that famous quote that was always attributed to Albert Einstein, but he really didn't say it. Insanity is doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. It was intelligent enough for him to have said it, but he didn't say it, but somebody said it. You can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. If you want different results, you're going to have to do things differently. It's as simple as that. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. That way you'll know when I'm going to be posting videos. I'm always trying to help you to examine your situations the way that I am currently and have done in the past, and the way that I have observed other people doing as well. Give me some input, put something in the comment section. I really appreciate your input. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.